3. We're live, Mr. Wade.
Pleasant good night. Pleasant good night to our viewers and listeners, Belizeans, both at home and abroad and around the world. Welcome to another edition of our Belizean Affairs Show number 272.
Amen.
On this blessed Wednesday, March 26, 2025. It's always a pleasure to sit in the company of my esteemed brother, Mr. Leonard Brackett,
Yes, sir.
and also a pleasure to sit with my brother, Mr. Gregory Brackett, the Monday night chairman of our show, and Mr. Leonard Brackett, the Friday night chairman of our Belizean Affairs show.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade.
On that note, we will step right into our program because, you know, boy, how time flies. When we are trying to just start to have fun, that's when we got to say goodbye. On that note, I turn to my dear esteemed brother, Mr. Leonard Brackett, to lead us in a prayer, and then I will proceed with a reading verse that someone had sent to me again tonight, or faithful supporter, one of our faithful supporter. Leonard, you want to lead us in a prayer, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. We're privileged to sit with you tonight, and hopefully, whatever we have to offer that may be of some positive public benefit, as well as we'd like to offer a short word of prayer. I'll close my eyes, sir. Divine loving Father, once again we come before thy presence. Thou knowest our hearts, our desires, even our most secret thoughts. Thou who art the creator of heaven and earth, and all that in them are, we ask that thou would bless this program tonight, that thou would give us the words, the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding with which to speak, and hopefully whatever we have to say may accrue to some public benefit to our people and country of Belize, Belizeans at home and abroad. We pray that thou mayest bless our family members, our friends, our loved ones, wherever they are. Thou knowest them by name and number. Please continue to abide with them, and please continue to bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership as well, as this country of the United States, its people and leadership, and the rest of humanity, especially those people who are in harm's way and being hurt for no justifiable reasons sometimes. We pray that thou mayest bless them, have mercy upon them. For us these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. Back to you, Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Leonard, for that warm
Likewise,
prayer.
sir.
Our country sure do need prayers for
Amen.
all the things that is happening, and also the world needs prayer because these are the signs of time. Um, we are living in some very, you know, sad days. Doesn't look good. It's gloomy at home and around the world. So I will proceed with this reading that one of our faithful supporter sent to us to read, and it's from Thessalonians 1, chapter 5, 1 to 12. It reads, "Now, concerning the times and the season, brothers, you have no need to have anything written to you. For you yourselves are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying there is peace and security, then suddenly, sudden, sudden destruction will come upon them as labor pain comes upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. But you are not in darkness, brothers, for that they use for that day to surprise you like a thief. For
Amen.
you are all children of light, children of the day. We are not of the night or of the darkness. So then, let us not sleep as others do, but let us keep awake and be sober. For those who sleep, sleep at night, and those who get drunk are drunk at night. But since we belong to the day, let us be sober, having put on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation. For God has not destined us for wrath, but to obtain salvation through the Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us so that whatever we are whatever we are awake or asleep, we might live with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. We ask you, brothers, to respect those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love because of their work. Be at peace among yourselves. And we urge you, brothers, among the idle, encourage the faint hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all. See that no one repays anyone evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to everyone. That's by reading from Thessalonians chapter 5, 1 to 13. Uh, Leonard,
Yes, sir.
before I um, proceed with our program, I would like, if you have something you want to depart to the nation
Uh,
in your own wisdom.
Definitely, sir. I always cherish these opportunities and thank you for granting me another one. Uh, it is my impression that somehow tonight's program will include part of what I'm about to say right now, but I can't wait to get this little part off my chest. I noticed the Prime Minister had the opportunity to say that he would not accept any migrants from other countries other than our own, from those who are being sent out of the United States back to their country of origin, especially those who are criminals per se. And he stipulated that Belize is an independent country, and as far as he's concerned, as the Prime Minister, he does not want to take anyone from other countries into Belize as part of this agenda because he thinks that they should go back to their own country of origin. I wish I could believe the gentleman is telling the truth, but historically, I've always found him to say one thing and do just the opposite, or to do one thing and say just the opposite. So I have no faith in the gentleman's word. In other words, I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, the man has a word of honor. As far as my personal belief and experiences has been. So therefore, I will not wait with bated breath to see this gentleman do as he promised he would do, because I know, as he just mentioned, as the Prime Minister just mentioned today again, that some monies that were supposed to have been sent to Belize has been put on hold, and he was hoping to get it, but if he doesn't get it, it won't kill the department in terms of what needs to be done. They will still proceed to try and facilitate on their own to get the job done. That's the way someone who's looking out for the interests of his own people should be speaking. Truth to power. As we do to him. Because I don't have any fear calling him out when he does craziness or stupidness. But I would like to believe and hope that when he speaks truth to power and says what is right, despite the fact that there are consequences to be had, because all of us have our own rights, and everybody exercises their own rights, and when one person exercises their rights, sometimes it causes effects on others. The bottom line is that I wish I could believe the gentleman what he's saying. But knowing what I know, the porousness of our border, his inclination to accepting Guatemalans into our country, when Guatemala is claiming our country, the territory of our country has been theirs, and has us right now at The Hague, contesting as to whether or not the territorial integrity of our country will remain as it is today. And our constitution says that the government or no officials in the country should be giving any legal status to anyone of Guatemalan origin until this matter is resolved. But yet the Prime Minister is going to come to us and tell us that he's going ahead and violating our constitution and doing what the constitution tells him he's not supposed to do because he feels like doing so. That is part of the reason why I said I don't have any confidence in the man or trust in the man, because he swears on the Bible, he swears to uphold our constitution, he swears to govern our country according to the interests and well-being of the country and its people, and yet he does not abide fidelity to any of those sworn oaths. So for right now, knowing that, or expecting or hoping that tonight we'll have further discussion on this matter, I'd just like to yield back to you for right now, Mr. Chairman. But those are some of the things that's on my chest and pressing on me right now. Thank you very much for the privilege.
Thank you. Thank you. Um,
You're welcome, Mr.
you know, it it strikes me in this country, very hard to see that, over the decades, to see how I'm going to talk about the lands department today, right? Because as for me, I think that for decades now, that department in particular, and others, but this one in particular, do a very disservice to the Belizean in this country, right? I don't know how Uno see it, right? But this is how I see and witness the service given to our born Belizean in this country. Very sad. And then, you know, I I I question, for some time now, the role of our courts in this country and the judiciary in this country. The courts and the judiciary, they have a very important role to play in this country, right? Likewise, in every country around the world, the courts and the judiciary has a very important role to play. Again, I have a very big problem with the importation of judges in this country. Importation of judges in this country that comes to this country. I have an issue with that. That's just me, based on what I see and the things that they do in this country and how they do it. And again, I have a problem with the Belizean DPP office. They have a very important role to play in this country. But what they do, they politicize that department. Very political. Is that the role that they should play? I question. Right. So, again, what is the role of our judges and the court? The judges and the court. Well, let's say the courts first, then the judges. What is their role? I am not no learned man. I'm one of those Belizeans that Johnny Briceño, the Prime Minister, says we don't have talent. I am one of those. I do not have talent. But I know a little of our constitution and the laws of this land. Because I was a member of the police force. So I have to know, to a certain extent, the laws of this country. All policemen, all law officers should know the law to an extent in this country. So I say this to say that, I've served my country as a member of the police force and as of the Belize Defense Force, one of the first to form the BDF. Now, I say this with no reservation. I'm very proud of myself to have served my country and people. I have not served no minister, no politician, no party. Regardless of how you want to see me. If I was in the party, I did not serve no party. No politician. Okay? So, I say this to say that I respect our courts. And as far as I know, The courts and the judges are there to uphold our constitution, distribute the law fairly and equally. Am I talking something stupid? Am I going to penalize me for what I say? When I speak the truth. If that's the way I know it, that's the way I know it. Show me different. Tell me different. But it's not that way. That's one thing I really don't like in my country. But I'm only one person that maybe does not like that. Right? The way the courts and the judges distribute justice in this country. Not fairly, not equally. Show me otherwise. Now, I'll say this to say that, we want to talk a little bit about these things, right? Because we see in the news, the media, it's a daily occurrence of how the judges rule, the courts, the verdicts. We see things that happen in the courts because it becomes public. Maybe tonight there are lots of things that happen in the court publicly. Right. Whether the news media disseminate the information to you in the right and fair manner, that's a matter for them. Right? But individuals, the courts have ruled on in this country. Most of them is not equal nor fair. I didn't say all of them, I said most of them. Take that any way you want to take that.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Leonard.
Can I reinforce just what you said just now? From my vantage point, I would like to say that within the last 6 cases that has been ruled, or that any decisions were made from our judiciary system, 4 up to maybe 5, I would probably exaggerate by saying 5 of them out of those 6 have not been ruled correctly. In one way or another, there are bastardization of our system, our court system, and previous rulings that they did not, that are supposed to be held up as stare decisis or settled law. And we have had these recent rulings contravene what has been known as settled law. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
So right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
And in my rant about imported judge, that's how I call them, because they come from another country, from another part of the world, from thousands of miles away from this country, thousands of miles away from Belize. So I call them imported. Tell me another word, and I can use it. I watch some of these imported judges. They come to this country, and you hear the leader of this country in the past and present. Oh no, there were a pool of judges from the world get together and they answer certain questions and this and then we narrow it down, and then this is the one we pick to come to Belize to disseminate judgment against the Belizean people. Wow. I have a big problem with that, Leonard and my people. All of a sudden they come here and they know our constitution backwards and frontwards and all kinds of way. They know they just come here. And so they suborn easily. Do you think anybody in the world thinking? Do you think that these judges come here just like that? No, they come here because the leader of this country invite them here to do their dirty work. And if they don't, you think their contract is because because it happens, it happens already in this country.
Over and over.
So those of you who think I talk something stupid, turn around and come back again. Check the stats. Do your research. Nothing they could say that I'm stupid. Now, you think that's fair to the Belizean people? They are put in our court system here to do the work and bidding of either a UDP government or a PUP government. And when they fall short and do not want to tread the lines, what happened to them? Their contract sometimes cut short, and they're shipped back to wherever they come from. I have a problem with that whole process. My problem is that why not past government and present government, UDP, PUP government, do not recognize our own banned Belizean judges? Why not? For me, I say it's all political. Because maybe a group of judges is not tread the line of a UDP or a PUP, so none of them will like them. Right? Maybe they corner them in a corner and sit them in the room and already find out who they would more likely to support. That's how these crooks, that's how these hyenas, that's how these devils do things in government. Leaders. These kind of things got to stop. Because then the Belizean people will never have justice. Equal justice. These guys, they come to this country and they cater to a certain party or a certain leader. Right? So they can do whatever they want in this country while they are leaders and they are alive. Because why? They have the judiciary and the court to back them up. And who dare take them to court? Who dare? And sadly, if anyone does, they use the same very own taxpayers' dollars to fight the same people. Who does that? Who does that? And yet, a lot of us Belizean here, both at home and abroad, see these crooks as gods. They're gods. They're UDP gods and they're PUP gods. They do no wrong. So sad. And some of you go to your graves thinking that way. I say this, there are conscious Belizean out here, both at home and abroad and around the world, that are very conscious. Back to you, Leonard. That's my little ranting I have to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I see Greg is in the background. I'm not sure if he's ready to come on yet, so I don't want to go and disturb him or put him on when he maybe not ready, no? But as regards to the judiciary, as you was speaking just now, uh, I hope Greg is able to bring himself on when he's ready.
Yeah, whenever he's ready, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you could
Um,
just invite him. We waiting.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes he has maybe a little problem, and then we have to
Hmm.
facilitate him. But I'm quite sure that he's in a position to be able to do so right now. So let me not belabor on that too much. Let me get back to the point, the topic which I was speaking to, and that is that we do need to have judges to fill the spaces in our judicial system. And as you intimated earlier, why is it that our Belizean lawyers, some of whom are senior lawyers, have served for quite a bit of years, and we have judges at the lower level who have served for many decades as well, and they're never given an opportunity to get promoted to the high court or to other levels? I don't have a problem with us bringing some people from abroad because, for example, like a Judge Conte or a Judge Benjamin, those judges were solid judges and they came from abroad. But we're not always lucky to have the same type of judges with that kind of temperament as those two gentlemen that I mentioned just now. Because some of these new judges that we're getting, it seemed to me like the government goes and do research on them, check their CV and their judicial temperament and history of cases that they have ruled on, and find that they're very palatable and malleable to the present government's perspective. That is, in other words, they are judges that will rule in favor of the government to bastardize our constitution because it is the government that gives them their contract. And they don't want to get into any foul situation with the government that the government will turn around and terminate their contract. So they go ahead and they rule contrary to what we are used to, because in Belize we have had judges rule in a certain kind of way and other judges come and rule in a different kind of way. In other words, inconsistencies. In our judicial system, as the port of last resort for shelter or harbor, we, the people of Belize, should be able to have some sense of guaranteed support and backing when it comes to our rights, when it comes to our judicial system as being one of the pillars of our governance system in Belize. We shouldn't have to be suspecting that judges are maybe on the take, or judges are maybe more interested in protecting their own contract than protecting our constitution, because they can go somewhere else to go and work if in case their contract is terminated. The judiciary system in any country is a branch of the government of the country. And the judicial system is supposed to be operating under the Constitution and the what you call stare decisis laws or settled laws. In other words, people are supposed to be able to know that they can trust and depend on their judiciary to arbitrate issues that relates to the legal system. As I pointed out earlier, from my sense of recognition and awareness and understanding of what our judicial system is supposed to be about, out of the last 6 cases, at least 4 or 5 of them have been ruled, as far as I could understand, not the way it would have been ruled in the past. In other words, they're the new rulings that are coming down now are eviscerating the people's expectation and our understanding of what the system is supposed to be doing and vindicating our understanding. But instead, we have new rulings that are playing fast and loose with the system. And as if the Constitution itself has no bearings on the rulings that the judges are producing. We should be able to have certainty of law and legal practices and procedures. Our customs and experiences and past rulings should be able to hold muster. So that when people decide they're going to sue somebody or sue the government for whatever ails them or whatever wrongs they think that have been perpetrated against them, they have some sense of justice being rendered, or they can look forward to some kind of justice being given to them. What's the sense of going to the court under Section 20 of the Constitution to seek judicial review and redress, only to have the court smack you down and to tell you to get out of the court's face because they don't want to entertain your claims, either against the government or against any other private person or public person or whatever. That is what the court is supposed to be there for. The court have what you call original jurisdiction in dealing with matters, legal matters in the country. But if a judge is going to rule, such as I think it was Judge Benjamin that had said that a particular case, I'm not going to make specific reference to it because it's still live and in court again, that a particular case, the Supreme Court Chief Justice had said that a particular case had merits and needed to be given a full judiciary hearing. It was a constitutional question and a constitutional issue. The hearing was given after that judge left by another judge. And this other judge did not rule on the merits of the case or the substantive issues of the case, which was, like I said earlier, a constitutional issue that needed to be addressed. Instead, the judge turned around and ruled on a side agreement issue that had no bearings whatsoever in answering and dealing with the substantive case, and threw out the case from her court. How the devil's beliefs have arrived at that point where that kind of hocus pocus is being played with the public and with our judicial system. Now, I don't care whether the judge was doing it for their own personal purposes, whether they were suborned, whether that's the kind of temperament that they have and that's the kind of rulings that they make. The bottom line is that our judicial system should be firm, should be solid, should not be questioned. There shouldn't be any reason to question it, especially based on what we have known in the past and what we're already used to. If you're going to come with some kind of a new or modern or some kind of Jekyll and Hyde process, the least you can do is make it known to the public that is what the public has as an expectation or should have as an expectation. But you can't just abolish or wipe away previous judgments that are actually standing judgments on which people are relying to go to court and have their case being heard and get redress or address of their issues. I'll deal back for a minute,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, because I see.
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you very much. I want to welcome. Thank you very much, Leonard, for that, for your input there. I want to welcome our next senior panelist, Mr. Gregory Brackett. You have the floor, my brother. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good night to the people at home and abroad, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to sit virtually with you guys on the platform
The pleasure is ours too, sir.
I thank the people for tuning in to this 272nd edition of Belizean's Affairs. Gentlemen, I was sitting in the back and I'm listening to the conversation. And first of all, I want to specify that when we speak about judges coming in from the Caribbean, we must remind ourselves, or if we don't know, that the Caribbean is the same as the UK. We are dealing with Commonwealth Caribbean law, and they all has the same precedent when you have cases and trials. I also want to stipulate that when we speak about cases, we have to ask ourselves if a case is justiciable or non justiciable, or if a case has to do with the doctrine of justiciability. So, when we know these things, we will know why in certain courtrooms and different judges, some judges refuse to hear a case. I want to say this to say that cases must have merits. And Section 20 of our Constitution speaks about judicial review, and the judiciary is where the court protects our Constitution and makes sure that any cases that are presented is within the line of our Constitution. So again, I want to say that cases must have merits. I'll give a prime example and I will go to the video and then we can discuss it and I will tell you why.
Well, I don't know what the court will decide, and I can't preempt the thinking and consideration of the judge on this matter. But I think it's a paper case at this point. Shine did not win his seat, and the constitution of the party is very clear. You cannot be the leader of the party if you do not win your seat in an election. It is really unfortunate that Shine keeps pulling at straws and not do the right and honorable thing and tender his resignation to the party. You know, people are exhausted by this desire of him to hold on to something that he can't hold on to, and to continue to create the kind of confusion that the party does need at this time. I have reached out to all my colleagues, all 31, with the exception of the 4 who decided that they were leaving the party, because it's time to reconcile. It's time for us to heal and to rebuild. And the reconciliation and healing period has to be short. The rebuilding is going to take time. A lot of harm has been done to the party. And I put that squarely on the shoulders of the former party leader, the former chairman, and the former vice chairman of the United Democratic Party.
Gentlemen, you have heard the video. The question then becomes, should the court entertain this case? I will tell you what will happen. Because Mr. Barrow loses at the poll, he has no background to protect him from the court. In other words, he fall under what is called in law mootness. There's nothing to hold him up. He cannot go to the court and say, well, I'm still the leader of the opposition, or I'm waiting for you to make a ruling. He has no foundation. I've sit here nights after nights discussing what happened within the UDP when this matter was taken to the court. And again, I will say a court is barred from answering political question. And this was one of a political question presented to the court. And the judge should have known that he has no authority or standing to choose between Mr. Barrow and Ms. Pantan, who should be the leader of the opposition that is a private entity with a constitution and is also a political party. I go to you first, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, Greg, for playing the clip. I would like to elaborate on that clip. I don't know if maybe now or at some other time, but I need, in the interest of the topic that we're dealing with, I need to clarify some salient points up front, first and foremost. In the first instance, uh, Mr. Shine went to the court with two motives. One, to ask the court to give him back possession of the property where the party headquarters is, and that he was still, according to his committee, he was still the leader of the party. That is what he went to the court and told the court, he and his lawyers. When in fact he knew that as of that point in time that he went to the court, the highest power of the United Democratic Party had spoken to that matter and told him that not only did they not want him to be the leader, but that he was fired from that position. He had no powers to exercise anything on behalf of the party or in the name of the party as of that point. Secondly, he conflated to the court that he wanted the court to rule as to who the leader of the party should be, whether him or Miss Panton. In other words, Miss Panton, they didn't go to the court to look to get the property in their name. They took the property because it belonged to them. They did not go through the court as the court would normally request for you to go to the court and get the court to rule in your favor for you to gain possession of your own property. So they conflated. They went with two purposes to the court. In the first instance, he was duly elected as, this is the clarity now that I'm bringing forward, as the leader of the opposition in the House, which is a different position than he was conflating and trying to claim leadership of the party itself. There are two different issues there.
Mr. Brackett, if I may.
Let him finish.
Just
Let
a
him
minute,
finish.
I'm trying to clarify
Yeah,
some
let him
things.
finish.
The public needs to know this. Because, okay, let me not continue to explain. Let me stay with the fact. At the time he presented that court case to the court, he was legally according to the Constitution of Belize, a member of Congress or a member of the House of Representatives. Not only just a member, he was the leader among the opposition group to whom he had the majority people voting in his favor to keep him in the position of leader of the opposition in the House, which is not the same as leader of the United Democratic Party. That seat he won under the United Democratic Party, but he won that in the constituency of Mesop. And the Constitution of Belize says that among the opposition group, they have to have a leader. And that leader will be the person who can command the majority of the opposition members of the House, who will go to the Governor General on that basis and get assented to a constitutional position as leader of the opposition. He lost his seat in Mesop, as you duly mentioned earlier, Greg. So, on this instance, he has no seat that he can go and claim to the judge that he is a member of Congress, duly elected, and he is representing his party and need the judge to help him continue representing his party. As you duly pointed out, that's a mute point as of today date that we're having this discussion. So because the judge held this matter over so long, did not have a hearing on it, circumstances overtook Mr. Barrow and he lost his seat and has not that opportunity now to go and bamboozle the court as he did in the first instance to say he's leader of the opposition in the House, he's the constitutional officer of the state and therefore deserves to be respected and given the opportunity to keep control of the premise or the property. So in both instances, the judge, even if the judge wanted to assume a posture of entertaining the case, which the judge should have, the judge should have told him as far as the second part of the case is concerned, the judge had no jurisdiction according to the Constitution, but I don't think maybe the judge had known that at that point. So the judge maybe wanted to appraise himself more, or herself more, or whoever, and then get the facts, and then make a ruling. But the judge should have known enough before ordering Mr. Shine to gain possession back of that property. And then Mr. Shine went out there, he and his lawyer, to the Belizean public and conflate, telling the Belizean public that the judge saw him as the leader of the party. And therefore he don't want nobody else calling himself leader of the United Democratic Party. Because the judge acknowledged him as being the leader of the opposition in the House. That is a conflation. And now we have this canard that the judge held this matter over long beyond the point where it was supposed to have been relevant for the general election, and now the judge is about to make a ruling on that second matter as to say who he is going to rule in favor of, who have the rightful claim to leadership of the party. That is not for the judge to determine or get involved with. Or Constitution of Belize forbids, bars, any judge or any other person to get into the middle of a party political affairs and dictate how the constitution of that party or how that party is supposed to go about selecting their own leadership. But that was done for the 20th of October last year. And that's what Mr. Shine was trying to obstruct or overturn by using the court to help him achieve that objective. The bottom line is that the court has no such rights, power, or jurisdiction. And it says, unless with the acquiescence of a person or an organization, no judge, jury, prime minister, minister, or anybody in the governance powers can exercise any such powers to determine for a party who their party leader is going to be. And that judge should have ruled from the very beginning. He could have taken 2 or 3 days to get to that point without ending up creating mischief.
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes. Greg, you wanted to say something? Now go ahead.
Sorry about that, Greg.
Okay,
Thank,
you have his turn now. You have his turn. Go ahead,
thank
Greg.
you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I really wanted to say was to set aside all the incidents that don't matter. Tonight we are speaking about the judiciary, and my question was, did the judge had any merits to hear that case? And I want to say this, he did
There,
not.
there were two cases that was compiled into one. He had a right.
Did
He had a right as far as the headquarters to make a ruling on that issue. He had no right to make a ruling on the other issue that he held in abeyance until now, the 31st of this month.
Mr. Brackett, Mr. Barrow, again I will repeat it. First, let me repeat what I just said. The judge had no merits to attain that case. He should have dismissed it right away. Even with you speaking about the headquarters, there is no merit there.
The judge was not in the capacity to know that.
I will tell you why
That's why I said
again.
he erred. He erred. He made a mistake.
Mr. Barrow was not and do not fall under the Landlord and Tenants Act. He was not renting that building. So a judge could not have made a ruling on that and replace him back in that building. There was no law broken.
A judge just did, right?
That is why I'm saying
Bastardizing of our
he
constitution
had
and
no
our system.
merits to interfere with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. And let me jump in here. That's the reason why I have an issue with these imported judge. That's one of my problem. Because you said it clearly. He has no business even entertaining that political mischief there. That's politics. They have their own constitution, right, Greg and Leonard? That
That's
they should
correct.
abide by. That's what that judge, that imported judge, should have sent them back to do. You go and lock up in a room with your political thing, and you sort your problems out. Don't bring it
Mr.
here.
Chairman, if I
That's
may,
what I think.
Mr. Chairman, if I may prove a point as to what I'm saying,
Right.
they were sent to mediation. It is the same way the judge could have simply said, if you are dissatisfied with what the convention came up with, then go back and do it because I cannot take this case. As
Too
simple
sad.
as that.
Yeah, so sad, Greg. To thank you.
Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Guys,
Chairman, can I
so
make another statement quickly?
okay,
Um,
go ahead. 2 minutes.
the judge sent them for mediation or proposed mediation. He didn't actually send them for mediation. The judge proposed mediation as an option in the interim until the case would have been ruled, right? If through mediation it could have been solved, then the case could have become a moot case, and the case could have been, gotten rid of. But Mr. Shine chose not to, because their effort was about bamboozling the system, the court system. He had a little resource that he was able to, with the advice of his father and Mr. Perefit, and who is a lawyer as well, and also the chairman of the previous chairman of the party, and others. They got together and decided to try and power play the other faction of the party who didn't have that kind of resource available to them. So what they were going to do was to slap the powers out of the hands of those who had it by virtue of using the mechanisms of the state. That is to say, the courts. That they could afford to make these filings and afford to sustain a case up to the ending of the Supreme Court ruling, if and when that came about, which is still in front of us as of heading into the 31st of this month. And they had enough resources that would have seen them go for an appeal if in case they lost it, while the other side would not have had those opportunities. So it was just a power play that was being done to stall for time and to keep a certain person to appear as being credible. The bottom line is that the judge should not have entertained that case and should have right there and then, had the judge known enough, because I'm chalking this up to ignorance on the judge's part or deliberate intent. There's only two ways.
So right on that, Leonard.
Either he was ignorant
We
of the facts,
all three of us come to that
deliberate effort,
agreement and that conclusion.
a deliberate effort
Yes.
to stifle the UDP and keep them fighting and fussing and wait until after the election is done, and they were not able to come back together and be cohesive enough to become a check to the government in terms of a competitive party. Then it was a bye to the party in power, engineered, and I can tell you exactly how some of the pieces went. Okay? But I won't get into all of that because
thank you.
I'll wait till Friday.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
But,
go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the question was jurisdiction that I know for sure the judge did not have.
We heard that, I say the same thing to Greg and Leonard said the same thing. They shouldn't have entertained it, right?
Mr. Chairman,
Uh-huh.
here in Belizean affairs, we show and tell. Let's show the
Exactly.
people at home and abroad so they
Exactly.
can understand what we're speaking about.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here with Lainey, the con law dog. She wants to know some con law. She wants to learn some con law today, so she's going to stick here with us. It looks like. I want to talk to you today. Before we get to the political question doctrine substantively, it occurred to me that students need to be aware when a certain question is asked on an exam that there are multiple different issues that question could implicate. Be very wary with a con law question of the call of the question. If the call of the question is whether Congress has the authority to do something, right, is Congress's law constitutional? Well, then you're being tested on Congress's enumerated powers. If the call of the question is whether a presidential executive order is valid, then you're being tested on Youngstown and presidential authority. In Con Law 1 in particular, if you're asked whether a state law is valid, that right there tells you that you might be being tested and probably are being tested on dormant commerce. In Con Law 2, there's a slew of different issues that are involved, but in Con Law 1, you want to really get down to, okay, if the call of the question is X, where the issue is Y. Now let me talk about a completely different question than those questions about congressional power, presidential power, and the power of the state. Watch for a call of the question that asks this. Should a court hear or entertain, right, this case? Another way of asking that question is, should a federal court dismiss this claim? When the call of the question is, should a court hear this case, should a court entertain this case, right, you can hear that language, or should a court dismiss this case, you're probably being asked, and again, I don't want to make promises, but when that's the call of the question, one of the things you have to think about is that you may be being tested on the concept of justiciability, right? A case is either justiciable or it is non-justiciable. Justiciable, capable of being resolved by a court. A case that should be in a court, a federal court, is a justiciable case. a case that should not be in a federal court is a non-justiciable case. I want to run through, when you see that call to question, right, should a court entertain this case or should a court dismiss this case? Again, two sides of the same coin. I want you to run through a mental checklist of 5 possible issues that you're being tested there that fall under the umbrella of justiciability or a justiciable or non-justiciable case. Number 1, speaking of the political question doctrine, a case is non-justiciable if it presents a political question. Now I'm going to have a whole different video about how you know you're being tested on political question doctrine. But if the call of the question is should a court hear this case or should a court dismiss, one of the possible justiciability issues would be whether the case presents a political question, i.e. one that should not be in a court. So you have to check that off. Check for that, right? Do I see facts in here about political questions generally? The second justiciability issue that you want to look for, again, if you see that call to the question, should a court hear this case, is whoever is raising the claim, does that party have standing? And again, standing has a lot to it, and I'll do a separate video on when you know you're being tested on standing. But again, even if the call of the question is, should a court hear this case, you want to look at political question doctrine, possibly, and standing possibly being a problem. Now, related to standing, mootness. Moot means there's nothing we can do about it anymore, which is related to standing, because what that really means is it's not redressable anymore. There's nothing a court can do about it. A case that is moot is non-justiciable. Similarly, a case that is not ripe is non-justiciable, right? The case has to be ripe. That's also related to standing, because standing requires injury in fact that's not speculative or conjectural, and to say that a case is not ripe is to say that we don't have a concrete injury, at least not yet, right? All we have is possibly conjecture or speculation. But that too falls under the umbrella of justiciability. So again, if the call of the question is should a court hear this case or should a court dismiss this case, right? Political question doctrine, standing, mootness, and ripeness are possible justiciability issues. Finally, you want to take a look at the 11th Amendment as a possibility, because the 11th Amendment is a bar that's right in the text of the Constitution that stops federal courts from entertaining certain types of lawsuits against states. And again, there's more meat that needs to be put on those bones, but here I'm just talking about issue spotting. So I'm going to repeat, if the call of the question is, should a court hear this case, or the flip side, should a court dismiss this case, then you're not being tested substantively on Congress's power, the president's power, or a state's power. There you're being tested on a court's power, right? And the appropriateness of a court exercising its power. Again, those issues are called justiciability issues, and when you see that call to question, go through your mental checklist. Do I have a political question here? Do I have a standing problem here? Do I have a mootness problem here? Is this case ripe? Is there something in the fact pattern that would cause me to be concerned about the 11th Amendment, right, with a person suing a state by name in federal court? More on that later, but get that checklist down. When you see that call to question, and Common Law 1 in particular, you want to make sure you're thinking about all of those possibilities. So we'll go ahead and start.
Yes.
There you go, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Show and tell. Guys, I want to shift a little, on this segment here, on the lands department.
Mr.
We
Chairman,
do a little lobbying. Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we go to that, would you be kind enough to spare me at least 2 minutes, 1 minute for me to read this stuff, and maybe another minute for
Okay, go
Greg
ahead.
for yourself or Greg maybe to make a comment on it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Constitution of Belize, Cap 4, Part 2, Section 13, Subsection 1 reads as follows: except with his or her own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of assembly and association. That is to say, his rights to associate freely and assemble with others or other persons and in particular to form or belong to a trade union or other associations for the protection of his interests. When it says interest means anything that is of his, that's important to him, or to form or belong to a political party or other political association. What it is saying there is that neither a judge from the judiciary nor a member of the executive, ministers, for example, or a minister of cabinet and their different cabinet departments, and or the third branch, which is the legislative body. All of these bodies are forbidden. They are barred. They have no rights or no opportunity or legal constitutional powers vested in them to contravene any political party's constitution or to dictate to them how they should run their political affairs.
Thank you.
Now, as to what Greg was, the tape that Greg just played, in our Belizean constitution, it states it clearly as I just read it. Okay? They have no jurisdiction. The judge had a judicial temperament, adequate
Mr.
judicial
Brackett,
temperament. The judge would not have entertained that case in the first instance, as we had pointed out from the very beginning of as many times.
Yeah, we've been saying that. Yeah, we've been saying that.
So
Yeah.
the bottom line is, now that the case is actually mute per se, the fact that the judge still have control of the case is actually a mute case as of today date.
it's smooth.
Yeah,
There's no ripeness, there's no standing.
Yeah.
there's no purpose for him contemplating further.
Right.
So if the judge wants to save eggs off his own face and has a proper judicial temperament, which is what I usually continue to question, the judge would just say no on the 31st of this month that for all intents and purposes he has nothing to rule on. Nothing acknowledging the fact that he was barred from
I
entertaining
told
any
you
such
that he will dismiss it. There's no substance there. The Constitution by itself, Section 13,
That's what I just
already barred a judge.
that's
From
what I
the
just
time it
that's
said
what I read.
political
But
party, he
my
had no
question
right
is,
to
guys,
interfere. Yes.
Greg, my question is, Alan, why somebody don't check this judge? Why why this judge boss does not
Mr.
check him,
Wade,
or why?
Mr. Wade, let me answer
I
that for you. Executive powers. By doing what had been done,
can't
who does it
understand.
favor? Did you not heard it from the Prime Minister mouth when he was speaking the day to Channel 7 and Dean Street that when your opponents are done, you have to take advantage of them?
It's so sad though.
Besides
That's
that,
what I said.
besides that, to your question, Mr. Wade, why nobody check the judge is because the judge is working on behalf of the government of Belize under the under contract with the government of Belize, but the Attorney General is the ones whose portfolio they issue those contracts to different judges, and they have to review the portfolios of those judges before they hire them. Just like with anybody who was hired for a job,
Yeah.
they have to present their CV, they have to present their past cases. You do research on them.
I,
You have an idea of who and what they're about, how they have ruled in the past, and then you decide, okay, you want to hire them because they are inclined to be in favor of the government that they work for.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Had he done
may,
one
Yeah,
last point,
yeah,
I'll give up right now, Greg. Had that judge made a ruling that was contrary to the interests of the government, do you think he would have still been around in Belize right now? But he was making a ruling that was helping the government to achieve the government's objective, and therefore, just let it ride. Nobody was going to check him. The people that were supposed to check him are the bar association, the court, because the high court also have um, uh, um, a chief justice, right? Who runs that department and is responsible for that department. It wasn't the chief justice that made that ruling. Well, I'll yield back.
I'm just saying, no, God. You want to say something, Greg? Go ahead.
I can wait, sir, until you're finished.
I'm just saying, Greg, like I've been saying, right? I and it's simple. These imported judge are stubborn.
That's the point.
So who
That is my fear.
in the high echelon in this country, who has the duty, or who should show the temperament and let out to this judge? If you do not know, judge, this is what you should be doing. This is what you should be saying, right? You just come here, you don't know, this is what you should do, right? But no, and the same way you showed, Greg, the same way, like you say, we always show and tell. Why can't these?
Mr. Chairman, there is a difference.
That's my
I will
problem.
not, Mr. Chairman, I will not go that route to speak about one's contract or how he was hired. I will not go to speculation. What I will say is judges listen to cases and judges take cases based on the merits.
So let me stop you there quickly, right? Let me stop you there.
Okay?
Based on what?
The merits.
Supposed to be.
The merits
Okay,
of
right
the
there,
case.
Leonard.
There's a little part missing.
So this judge didn't know the merits, or he see a different merit. That's why he entertained.
Mr. Chairman, I had called it out and I have said that he had no
I try to talk so
jurisdiction.
the command man could understand,
The judge had no jurisdiction on that case. It was a political question that is protected by our Constitution.
Let me
Period.
Yes.
Let me explain this
No.
quickly.
If we want to speak about the gross bastardization of our Constitution and how it has been done and is being done by our government, who has no regards for it, I can show you and the people at home and abroad, because we have also speak about that.
Yeah, but I need to get to the point.
You know,
with that judge, that judge,
Yeah. Okay.
we need to talk. We need to call him out a little bit more.
Okay. What I'm saying
Not
is
wasted our taxpayer dollars, wasted our tax resources, our government resources on something that he should haven't been entertaining in the first place.
so what I'm saying
That's my
in
thing.
effect is that the judge
I mean, that's just
the judge made an error.
Well, why don't he come out and say that?
Wait. His judicial temperament was there to be seen, and I pointed it out from the very first time it happened. Judges, all of them are like human beings, like any of us, but they go to school and study legal practices, study law books, study constitutions, and they grow and become judges. They don't come out as
So why
students and
didn't
get
the Attorney General didn't tell him?
Mr.
they
Chairman,
not come out as
I'm
students
just,
and
you
then
know, I'm just blabbing, right? I'm just
yes,
blabbing. Why
Mr.
didn't the
Chairman,
Attorney General of this country
That's
tell
why
him where he's wrong?
That's why they hire him. That's why
Mr.
they hire the
Chairman,
judge.
the Attorney General has no talent. He has to be represented by another attorney when he's an attorney also.
On a
So
simple,
he
simple
himself
matter.
don't know the Constitution.
On a simple, simple matter. In fact, the man came to us and tell us that the constitution that we are living under currently cannot be abided by because they decided to put in place one shenanigan will not have no life of its own or no power
Or
unto
maybe
itself.
to Leonard, he'll tell me, well, that's not his job. Maybe he listens somewhere line and say, you know what, that man, Mr. Wade there saying, man, this is not my job to tell the judge.
Mr.
Maybe
Chairman,
he will say that.
Intermediary.
Mr. Chairman, let's hear this.
Okay?
Let's hear this for an example of what we're speaking about. I will
Thank
show
you.
you how
Thank
easy
you.
it is. How easy it is
Don't laugh, Leonard.
for
Don't
a
laugh, please.
constitution to be bastardized. And
Don't
I
laugh, Leonard.
also have sit here and I have mentioned section 18 of our constitution and when it can be used. Let's listen to it.
Please, I don't want anybody to misconstrue that I'm saying that we are lock them up. No. But if we have to hold them up for 120 days until they could calm down and then go out in society, we are going to do that. Because it is not fair to the people in these neighborhoods that have good, decent, hard working, law-abiding citizens that live in fear for these guys when they start out shooting. And then they shoot, and in many instances, the innocent people get hurt. It is not a band-aid. It's a temporary solution for things to calm down. And then we put the Nuri Mohammeds of the world to go and to talk to them and try to find a resolution amongst them. I hate the word state of emergency because it's not us, the entire state, the entire country, but it's a section. So
So the man
Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, guys, but you know.
But he was acting like an idiot. Huh? He finally
Mr. Chairman, there you have it, sir. Bastardization of the Constitution that you, the Prime Minister, take an oath to. If you know it's not a state of emergency,
why declare it as one?
and you know you are violating the Constitution,
He don't care about the Constitution.
you could have simply called the Minister of State along with the Commissioner and said we cannot continue to do this because it's unconstitutional. And I have mentioned it. Now they want to come up with a new name that they cannot do.
For the same actions. New name for the same
Because you know why they cannot do it? We have only one constitution and one section 18 that tells you how a state of emergency should take place.
Greg and Leonard, excuse me real quick.
Go ahead.
You hear what you said there, Greg? Unless they come up with another constitution, then they could do all this shenanigans to us.
Exactly.
They have been about.
No, it's about to happen. My people, whatever you said there just now, Greg, unless they come up with another constitution. So they are working their way towards that, right? To come up with another constitution so they can continue.
They are not, Mr. Chairman, trying to come up with one. They already have one. Because just the PCC Act that was presented, they already stated, the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, that it had a referendum act when they fully well known Belize has only one constitution. And the
Guys, I want to
Attorney
stop you right
General,
there now, you know, Greg and Leonard. Remember what we always say? I told you so. When it happens, we'll remember this one, right? We told you so, and we were laughing, telling you.
Mr. Chairman,
There you go, boom.
Mr. Chairman, the man they say that they have one constitution that they're supposed to be abiding by, but they disregard and dishonor and disgrace in lieu of a constitution that they're planning or hoping to get, right? And until they get that new constitution,
Yeah.
everything else that's in the world constitution is just silent. No, then what
Guys,
constitution are we
yeah.
operating under then?
Guys, I wanted to talk a little bit, but we are out of pretty much all the time. But I wanted to talk a little about the lands department, guys, and my people, because
Make we add on another 5 minutes.
every
Mr. Wait,
day,
Mr. Wait, make we add on that.
every day, you hear some poor Belizean, born Belizean, having problem of getting their paperwork and the length and breadth they have to travel to get their paperwork, and how their paperwork are being lost, right? And how they have been dragged through the mainland. When you look, 3, 4 individuals own the same lot. These things, Leonard and Greg, we hear it every day,
And all of them
right?
paid for the same lot, Mr. Wade. They all of them
So,
own it and all of them pay for it.
so we do a little lobbying here now, and a little public help here, and join the lands department and Britannia administration and past administration. Why are you doing this? You're hearing it every day. The problems people are going through to get their little 50 by 100 lease. Some, they're 5 years, 7 years, 3 years,
How about 20
20
years?
years, and sadly, it keeps going. So what is the purpose of the lands department? Is it only when election is coming, they go around the country, a lands fair, because the election is close, and that's what people gravitate to. What the minister lands when they are on the prime minister, and they give a land,
And call it land
right?
clinic. Mr.
So
Chairman,
yeah, and they
Mr.
Greg,
Chairman,
and then we see it happen, and they got in clinic, and election go, and the lands department clamp down again to these very same old people who have the papers. So they're going through another cycle, another cycle. Then they wait for another election when it come, right? Come on, but you guys, you understand what I'm talking about now, and yet this man will hide when he was in opposition. Oh no, and he will make it transparent, and he will help the Belizean people ban Belizean, and he will do this and he will do that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a short question. How much?
Go ahead.
They said that they gave out 20,000 lots, and they were in the process of giving out a few more before the election was called and finally run a few days ago. My question is, out of those 20,000 lots that they gave out and the extras that they were going to give out before the election, how much of those were given to born Belizean Creoles?
There you go. That's
As,
what I
com- as,
wanted to
as,
hear.
as, com- as compared to the people them where they want to vote for them, that they are giving these lands now from the land clinics under emergency status, and the people who wait for lands where got them paperwork for years on top of years on top of years. No, they
Remember
get
what I said to
no
Leonard?
attention and they get
Election
no
is
lands.
coming. Election is coming. So they're doing that.
I want somebody in the lands department to explain how much of those lands were given to first-time born Belizeans, and especially as regards to Creole. And maybe some Gary for that too, because they give a lot of lands to the Mayans then, they let them run roughshod over the rest of the people them in PG, grab up all the lot of land then, acres on top of acres. They never stop them from develop no land, but they stop all the other rest of people them from develop land. While the other one they develop and they grab more and more and more. Does anybody realize
what's the solution, guys?
wait, Mr. Wade. Does anybody realize that that was the downfall of Miss Dolores Balleramos Garcia? Has anybody been able to figure that out yet?
Tired of that.
Hmm? It was that same land issue with the Mayans them that she went and talked about 6 feet so and 4 feet so and in the House of Representatives that caused her not to have a ministerial portfolio of her own, which she could have maybe be the leader of right now, and the young lady that they gave that ministry to could have been her understudy. Okay? That's the appropriate way to have done that.
But what I'm saying here, guys, we're talking about real things. I mean, things that are affecting our everyday Belizean, right? And it's not only now 2025, Greg and Leonard. This is from the time of memorial. That's what they do. So don't you think that it's high noon that the lands department should be investigated or change the image of the same old that they do all the time and actually do the work of the people, manage the people, natural resources the right way, instead of doing all this bastardization, all these pop-up realtors, all these developers, some of them have been murdered for whatever reason, and popping up of using these villages that we gotta expand our villages, but we need land. We're expanding it for our villagers, and when in fact it's not for our villagers, it's for other entities.
The big hustle.
Big hustle, and when only in election time. So don't you think, guys, that it's high noon? It's over time and time now, though, that these things have been should be addressed. You hear the Prime Minister, Johnny Briseno, addressing this issue. You hear Colonel Hyde addressing this issue. These two main people, these two main leaders, these two main elected leaders, these two main leaders that swear on the Bible. Something needs to be done, right? I wanted to talk a little more in depth, but let me hear a minute from you, Greg. Greg, let me hear a minute from you, Leonard, or let me hear a minute from you, Leonard, for a closing.
Yeah. We're past the time, so I'll yield, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And I'll just
well, on that note, I want to, thank our viewers and listeners, both at home and abroad, who support us by sharing, who will watch us a little later. We want to thank you, loyal supporters in terms of being there, have been there since our inception. I want to thank you from the heart. And again, it's always a pleasure to sit with you, two great gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Patriotic Belizean.
We've been getting some good numbers, Mr. Wade, Mr. Chairman. And great.
Thank you to all these people, both at home and abroad and around the world. Thank you. We wish more Belizeans, diaspora, everybody, pitch in and share, right?
Well, I need to come back to that land thing again, Mr. Wade, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, because